Welcome to Carte, Los Angeles for an episode with Daniel Krasofski. He's a member of the IAO Institute, right?
Correct.
And Daniel, you're going to explain what it is.
Well, thank you very much for having me on your program.
You're welcome.
Very happy to have you here at the IAO. The Institute for Art and Olfaction is a non-profit organization that works with artists, independent perfumers, as well as the layperson who knows nothing about perfume but wants to learn about scent. We collaborate with artists from all around the world at many different types of artists to implement scent in art, as well as we also work with the average person who just wants to learn about scent. Scent is a very difficult subject to learn about, so we here at the Institute offer information on how to create perfume, how to use scent in an artistic way. We also support the independent perfumers from around the world by offering an annual competition called the Art and Olfaction Awards. We held the last awards at the Hammer Museum just a couple of months ago, and we had perfumers from all around the world.
Perfume and scent. Scent, what's the difference with perfume and scent?
Scent is, there's really no difference, but scent is sometimes referred to the sense of smell or anything that you smell as scent. Perfume is almost a very specific use of a product in modern times, which would be for adorning the body to make it smell good. Scent, when used in art form, is used to elicit an emotion. One of the interesting things about the sense of smell is it brings back memories.
Okay.
It brings about emotional responses. So when working with an artist or within an art piece, we're using the sense of smell or scent to create an emotional experience. In that respect, the scent would not be considered a perfume in modern day terms.
Okay.
So technically it would be a perfume, but it's more of a scent.
I see the difference now. So now you have all those products. We have all those products in front of you. What do you want to do? What do you want to do with it? I mean, do you want? We're going to smell. Too bad you cannot smell. We can. So I'm very curious about this. What this is?
Well, so many people are interested in perfume or in scent or even in flavorings, which use a lot of the same materials. And so what I wanted to show you is a couple of the variants of where the essences come from, where the molecules come from, how they smell on their own, but also how they can be synthetically made to kind of recreate what nature has made.
Oh, okay.
So a lot of the raw materials that we use in perfumery or in scent creation is actually from natural materials. So we've got geranium, rosemary, rose, and jasmine. These are actual plant materials that you can extract the scent from. So for example, like this is just a common jasmine.
Oh yeah.
Which LA smells like jasmine at certain times of the year. And I brought some specific jasmine extracts. These are the actual natural extracts.
So we have rose here.
We've got rose, we've got jasmine.
Yeah, that's a rose.
Yeah, the rose. We have rosemary, which as a chef you would know rosemary, and a geranium. This, interestingly enough though, geranium
it's not as strong.
The geranium flower has very little scent. The scent comes from the leaves.
Oh, okay.
So I brought that just to look pretty. So many essential oils and plant extracts actually come from the plant material. Those are considered what are called natural materials, or essential oils or absolutes. But a lot of synthetic material is actually created from petroleum.
Oh.
And from crude oil. So if you can imagine, petroleum is the soup of decomposing plants. So housed within that petroleum are molecules and molecules and molecules of these plants. So scientists have determined a way to actually break down the crude oil into specific molecules, either directly through isolating that molecule or using different types of enzymes or chemical reactions to create different molecules. So we've got some natural materials from the jasmine, and then we also have some synthetic molecules that are within the jasmine.
Okay.
So when you extract, say, rose oil or jasmine, you need hundreds and hundreds of petals, if not thousands and thousands and thousands of petals, to create a very small amount of material, which makes it outrageously expensive.
Yeah.
So the jasmine, and each species of plant can have its own scent. So I brought a jasmine grandiflorium and a jasmine sambac so that you can smell the difference of the jasmine, which also we'll get into when we create. So in just a moment, we're going to use these little pieces of paper.
Yeah, how do you call that?
So this is a testing strip, a mouet, a number of different, we just call them scent papers. Okay. There are technical names, but so one of the best ways so you don't get odor fatigue where you can't smell anything anymore.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Have you ever been in like a department store?
Yeah.
And you just get overwhelmed and you can no longer smell anything?
Yeah, it's true. I'm very sensible to that. I don't like to go to those places because it's overwhelming all the time.
Yes. And sometimes we can be a little overwhelming with all the molecules that we have here. Many places have the coffee beans, and you smell the coffee beans and it kind of miraculously cleanses your palate. We all know what coffee smells like, so smelling the coffee kind of resets our nose. It like kind of erases.
It's like drinking water in between wine? I got you.
Very similar. Another technique though is if you don't have coffee beans, you can just smell your own skin, your arm, or if you really want to be crude, go ahead and just smell your own body odor, which then resets everything, and then you're able to smell again.
Okay.
So when using a test strip, one of the ways to avoid that loss of sense of smell is you use a technique like we call bunny sniffing, almost like a dog who's sniffing around, and you're just sniffing around, or like a bunny, like a little bunny's nose. You take little sips of air so that the molecules that are going over your olfactory bulb or the nerves have a combination of air and the scent, and it opens up the scent. Very similar to when you're tasting wine, and you take a little.
You mixed. Yeah.
So we're going to take little bunny sniffs, and one of the interesting things is also to recognize that natural extracts of, say, a rose or a jasmine. When they are extracted, they have hundreds of individual molecules that make up that essence. And when we're talking about synthetics or aroma molecules are one single molecule that make up each of these vials. So there's about 150 individual molecules in a natural, and a synthetic is only one molecule. So I dipped these last night, and you can still smell the essence on them, but what I want you to do is we're going to smell them to see if you can smell some of the different individual molecules.
All right.
So this first one is a grandiflorium, and it has, it's jasmine-y, but can you, I'm going to have you smell this next one. This is a sambac. And now comparing the scents,
Not too good at this.
comparing the scents, do you smell almost like a barnyard scent, or like almost a hay-like scent?
Yeah, I do.
So that hay-like scent is actually this molecule called an indol.
Okay.
And so, have you ever picked a gardenia and it begins to turn brown on the edges?
Maybe.
Or if you've seen like a jasmine, sometimes it'll turn red or brown. That actually is the indol molecule beginning to decompose within the flower. So this first one, I'm going to re-dip. So what you were smelling, since this was dipped last night, you're smelling the base notes.
Okay.
The actual scents that last a long time. So whenever you dip something into alcohol, you want to wait about 20 seconds for the alcohol to evaporate, so that you don't get a whole nose full of alcohol. So this is fresh jasmine.
Oh, yeah. It is more fresh.
Mm-hmm. And then this one is a Jasmine Sambac. And again, waiting about 10 seconds for the alcohol to evaporate. So in just a moment, what we're going to do is going to begin to recreate this.
Okay. So how much alcohol are we talking about when you do a perfume compared to the molecules, actually? I mean, the base.
So, great question. Have you ever heard of like eau de toilette, eau de parfum?
Yeah.
Each of those delineate how much alcohol to how much essence.
Uh-huh.
So if you have an aftershave or a splash, it has the most alcohol and water to essence. An eau de parfum, which is usually more expensive and sold in the very tiny bottles, it has more essence to alcohol.
Okay.
So generally speaking, an eau de parfum, which is very expensive, very strong, would have about 25 to maybe 40% at the very top, 40% essence to the rest alcohol.
Okay.
Where an aftershave would have maybe 4 to 5% essence to the rest alcohol and water.
That explains the price.
That totally
everything.
Totally explains
because
the
those
price.
products are pretty expensive. Can you give us a range, for example, that, and you told me about before that some produce can go for thousands of dollars for just a little bit. Can you?
Yeah, and that's one of the biggest questions that people have about scent, perfume, or raw materials or essential oils is why are some very expensive and why are some not expensive? For example, I brought the rose and the jasmine in particular are two of the most expensive essential oils available on the market, because if you were to take a fragrant rose and take just the petals, you need a room about this size to make about that much essence. So this is a large room.
Yeah.
You need a very large, a huge amount of rose petals. So that explains the price. So the jasmine has a multi-step process to actually extract the essence. And as you can see, the petals of this particular common jasmine is very small. It takes thousands and thousands and thousands of plants. Where, for example, one of these molecules, a jasmine lactone, which is kind of the creaminess of the jasmine, can be synthesized at a much less expensive way and create larger quantities. So a jasmine, a pure jasmine, this is in dilution with alcohol. This is at approximately 5% dilution. So 5% jasmine essence, and then 95% alcohol.
Okay.
If this were pure, this would be approximately $400 to, depending on the quality, between $400 and $700.
Yeah, it's extremely expensive. Yeah.
And then for some synthetics, the same size bottle of a synthetic jasmine could be exponentially less expensive.
Yeah, of course.
There are some ingredients like orris root butter, which a very small amount could be thousands and thousands of dollars. But again, very small amount has a dramatic effect.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, I understand. So what's the next step you want to explain to us? I'm very curious.
So the next step is when you're working with a natural material, it has hundreds of molecules already naturally occurring within it.
Okay.
But they're also very expensive. So the next step would be to, using special analysis, determine what molecules are most present within a flower. This is also a technique that can be used to analyze somebody else's perfume. So one of the reasons why perfumery is so secretive is that one scientist or one perfumer can take a couple of drops of somebody else's perfume, put it into a computer, and it will spit out all of the individual molecules.
Oh, nice.
So these are some of the different individual molecules. Within jasmine, or what we know as a jasmine accord, which is the synthetic building of a jasmine flower, we've got a jasminol, which is a molecule that has a very strong jasmine scent. We've got benzyl acetate, cis-jasmone, as well as hexanol cis-3 and indols. So we're going to mix all of those together in different quantities. So for this first one, we've got cis-jasmone, And again, wait a couple seconds before you sniff it. I'm going to take my pipette. And I'm going to be using about the equivalent of about 70 drops. And when mixing perfume, we use a scale to get everything absolutely correct.
And you take notes, of course, after everything?
Always taking notes. It's so important that you take notes, write everything down. You never want to reuse a pipette as well.
Oh yeah? Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
Now this next one, this is called a Jasmine lactone, because when you smell a jasmine, it sometimes has a very creamy scent to it.
Okay.
And so I'm just going to take, this is a pretty strong molecule, so I'm only using about 4 drops for this particular accord.
So right now you're doing by randomly, or you know exactly what you need to do to get to the perfume for the scent that you want?
So one of the biggest things for a perfumer and for creating a perfume is lots of research. And so before I even go to a scale or to a container to create something, I actually write it down. You come up with the idea, and then you break it down into the ingredients that you know that you're working with. That's where you have to learn this entire library of scents to then write it down to then create something. So I do have a formula that I have written down already. This next one, this is benzyl acetate, which is also predominant in jasmine. It's a pretty strong molecule.
Yeah, it is.
So this one we want to use.
I put them in order if you want to.
Perfect.
Whatever you want to do.
So I'm using a little bit more of this one. And our next is one of my favorite molecules. It's called hexanol cis-3 or cis-3 hexanol, which has the essence of fresh cut green grass.
Oh yeah.
This is a
yeah.
And this is
amazing.
And again, this is just one molecule. So when you are cutting grass, that is the molecule that's going into the air. So I'm going to only use a very small drop of that. And then lastly, here in Los Angeles, one of the scents that's very well known around the city is, well, orange blossoms, but also jasmine. And similarly, both in jasmine and in orange blossoms, they are considered a narcotic scent, meaning the scent brings about a euphoria. The scent brings about kind of a narcotic scent. So it's classified as a narcotic. When you smell jasmine for too long or orange blossoms for too long, sometimes it can give you a headache or it can be very heady.
Be strong, yeah.
It can be very strong. One of the molecules that is so strong is what's called an indol. So this
is the indol?
Is the indol by itself. And indol is also found in different types of decaying matter, including flowers and plants, but also animal flesh. So on some level, the indol creates a very animalistic or very humanistic scent. Some people have even equated it to the smell of food. So we use a very light touch of the indol.
Thank you very much for watching the show à la Carte Los Angeles. See you next time for another episode. Thank you. Have a good night. Bye-bye.